Oh, there you are. Okay, so I'd like to start today with this slogan from a meeting that we attended a few months ago, because I think that the better we understand the needs of the cows, the better we can improve their quality of life. And I also think that this topic is very timely because technologies are everywhere in the farm and provide a number of opportunities for achieve these goals. So for today's presentation, I'd like to share some of our results from recent studies. I'm gonna work with data coming from milking process. The milking provides a lot of information every day and is happening twice, 3 times per day per cow. So it has an impact on the cows. So I think that's why it's a central part of this research. And second, I will move a little bit to body condition score information, a series of studies we completed. And the question for you, maybe for the discussion, will be how can we connect all this data from automatic body condition with behavior? So in specific for today, I'm going to go briefly on habituation to the milking process and then move a little bit to select behavior at the milking. And we are using that information pretty much to answer if the cow likes to choose, how she can show preference in different processes. So we're going to discuss a little bit about implications. And again, that'd be nice to have as part of the discussion. And then I'm going to move again to the body condition impacting different variables, but then how we can connect this to behavior, what would be the next step after we know what's going on with body condition. So we have these two milking systems that we work with. So one is a batch milking system with automatic milking units. The second one is a rotary parlor, a conventional dairy. In this one, we had two automated body condition score cameras, so we could record body condition scoring for every milking. For all the data for the cows, demographics, reproduction, and health, we work with data from on-farm software. So you can see here Dairy PC Dart. And then for the performance, we use Del Pro software. Okay, so let's go to the first part, which is the milking behavior. So this is our study farm. It's a grass-fed organic dairy, and we had a good number of milking events. You can see there about 200,000 milkings in about 2,000 cows. And this is the way that this is managed. So the cows will go to the pasture and to the dry lot, depending on the season, because this is a grass-fed organic dairy. And then they will move the cows to the milking center twice per day. So that's kind of special because the cows will be taken to the milking center and then they will be exposed to a large number of automatic milking units. So you can see here we have 22 milking robots in the milking center where the cows will go freely where they want to go and when they want to go. So even the groups will be mixed during the milking. So when they leave, when they finish their milking, cows will go through a series of sorting gates and then they will go to their own group, whether it's in the pasture or it's in the pen. So again, cows go twice per day to be milked in this center. They are free to go to each of the 22 robots and then they go back to their group. So the first point of interest for us was to test if the challenge of starting lactation, but also the exposure to this new milking process was affecting the dynamics of the milking behavior. And something interesting that we have in that farm is that they have 3 genetic groups. So they have Holstein cows, Jersey cows, and crosses, and they are all grouped together. So it was a nice opportunity to study these behaviors, but also to see if there was any difference between these 3 groups of cows. So let's start with part A. So this is the first study, and this was completed by my PhD student, Pablo Munoz. The idea here was to compare what happened in early lactation with primiparous cows and with multiparous cows. So we followed these cows for 90 days, from calving to 90 days, and we analyzed a few behaviors in the milking, and these you could say are negative behaviors, so it's milking kickoff, incomplete milking, teeth cleaning failure, teeth not found. So things you want to avoid, and we retrieved from the system. But also we wanted to know if the performance was different between these multiparous, primiparous cows and how these behavioral factors may be affecting the performance of the cows. So this is where we collected the information. Sorry about the noise, but as I said, these are the milking units where the cows will go freely, and everything that we used for the study was coming from this system. Okay, so let's go to the results of the first part. So this is frequency of kickoff. So we have in this side the frequency of the event, and here we have the week. So this is 90 days. And when we plot the results, I'm plotting in red the primiparous cows and in blue the multiparous cows. And you can see here in Holstein that there is a nice differential between the two groups. You can see also that it's kind of high at the beginning, but then start going down and getting close to the multiparous cows. This is what happened with Jersey, quite high at the beginning, but then going down by 80, 90 days is kind of similar to what you see in Holsteins. And then what you see in the crosses is kind of a combination, I would say, a midpoint between the two other groups. So let's see what happened with teeth cleaning failure. So in this case is a cleaning cup that did not reach one or more teeth, pretty high in Holstein, and you can see it's not really going down when you have time. So it stays pretty high up to 90 days. This is what happened in Jersey, quite different. She goes down faster. And again, kind of in the middle, we have the crosses, the Holsteins and Jersey. One more did not found. You can see in Holstein, starting high, going a little bit down, but staying high. And this it's 3 months, so it's still very high. Going to Jersey, kind of similar, and crosses in between. So as I said before, we wanted to see what happened with performance. So we see that clearly primiparous cows will have more of these negative events. But then what happened with the milk production? And we plot here, again, the primiparous cows in red, the blue would be multiparous, and as I mentioned, this is a grass-fed organic dairy, so the level of production is not very high. So this is kilograms per day. But I think what is interesting is that the fact that when we plot milking duration, so this is time with the cow in the box milking, we can see that they go very close. So they are similar, even though production is way lower in primiparous cows. When we go to Jersey cows, pretty similar, lower production compared to the Holstein. But again, we see here very similar values for both. And finally, for the cross, kind of in between, but not that clear, but still not the most efficiency, the highest efficiency for the primiparous cows. And we did a study a couple of years ago in a rotary parlor when we tested kickoff. So we said, okay, let's see what is different or if it is comparable to what we found here. And this is what we found at that time. You can see that this is multiparous here, this is primiparous cows, but it's pretty consistent with what we found in this case. So these are Holstein too. And you see how for the multiparous cows, 5% of the time you see this kickoff kind of not changing in time. And again, pretty similar higher values for primiparous cows. So kind of summarizing this first part, I'd say that we see clear differences between behavior in early lactation for primiparous versus multiparous cows. But also, in most of the cases, not always, these difference between the two groups kind of go decreasing in time. So we think this is the cows kind of getting habituated to what is going on. Okay, so let's move to our second point of interest. So this is a study center on selection behavior. And I have to give credit to Richard Weng, a former grad student that completed this study and had the idea to do it. So the question was, is there a difference or is there a milking unit preference in cows that are exposed to many robots? We have seen studies before where you have 2 robots or 4 robots. But in this case, as I mentioned before, we have 22 robots. So it was a question, do we find or will we find cows that like to go more to one unit compared to another unit? So that was our question. And then, of course, as we have these cows that are going together, is there a difference between the 3 genetics groups? So this is kind of the layout of the milking center. And you can see the cows will enter here. And then they will be in this kind of waiting space and will go freely to each of these units as they please. So what we wanted to check was if there was a preference for the milking unit, which is here in orange. But also we said, okay, maybe there is a preference for the barn side. So we said west versus east. And finally, the arm configuration, meaning the arm comes from the left or comes from the right. So we kind of work in 3 levels. The first one, to me, the most important was milking unit. Do they want one compared to the other 21? The side or the left or right side of the arm. Now, to put numbers, we use this preference consistent score that was proposed by this group that you can see here a few years ago. So what this does is considers the frequency for each cow visiting each milking unit, but then it compares the excess frequency for the first choice. So if a cow has a preferred unit, the frequency of visits will be compared to the average. So it's kind of testing if the real frequency is different to the expected frequency. So this is the formula we use. Don't worry about that, but the main point is that the PCS will go from 0 when there is no preference. If the cow goes to any milking unit without difference, that would be 0. If a cow goes every time to the same one, that would be a 1. So 0 is no preference, 1 is a preference. So let's take an example for a PCS value with a random cow. So she doesn't really care where she goes. So you can see here we have 10 visits in each of the units. If we put the numbers, you will get a 0. So there is no preference for any of the 4 units. She got a 0. On the other side, let's go with a super selective cow. And she goes all the time. 40 times she goes to unit 1. Again, we put the numbers. And what we get is a 1. So that means she really is a selective cow. Now, in our case, how we did this, we had, again, 22 units, and we know when the cows are going to each unit. So, for example, for the milking unit, we have 13 here, so that would be the top one. That's the preferred for this cow. Now, if we check for the barn side, we have west, because we go 38 compared to 20, so this is our top side, you could say. And then if we check for the arm, we have that she went 33 times to the right, so that's the top arm side preference, right? So we have 13, 38, and 33. So this is how we kind of presented the results to get an idea of how this was moving. So this would be the category where each cow falls. So this is the top selection category. And this is the percentage of cows. So it's kind of an histogram. In the case of the units, we have 22. If a cow goes randomly, she will go 4.5% of the time to the top one, right? Which is the same for the 22 units. So that would be the case of something like that. If everybody was there, there is no preference. But if we move to the right, we go with cows that are selective. Because in this case, 50% of the time, she will go to one top unit. As an example, in this case, 60% of the times, she went to the same unit, so that's the top one. Okay, so that's kind of to have the first impression of how the cows were selecting these milking units. So going to the results, this is top one milking unit. So the top one for each cow among the 22. And we can see that we have some cows. Most of the cows, I would say, are in this group. So that's indicating me that we are not random, which could be this one. So there is some degree of selection. Even you have a few cows here that are very selective. So not random. If we go to the barn location, in this case, the random value would be 0.5. So we have a few cows here, but we have a good number in the other side. So that tells me that cows kind of favor one side as top side. And finally, for the arm, I think it's a little bit different. Again, 0.5 would be random, and that's what we have here. And we have few cows compared to the previous one in this side. So I'd say, yeah, not totally random, but not that strong. Okay, so let's go now to our preference consistency score. So again, here is the PCS, and here we have days in the system, and we go the whole lactation, dividing the cows by Holstein, crosses, and Jersey. But for top one unit, we go about 0.2, 0.25, and we can see that Holsteins are a little bit higher compared to the other groups. For the multiparous cows, it's kind of more of a clear separation between the groups, and we move again about 0.15, 0.25. So that's telling me that Holstein is more selective. And then we group 5 units, so our value should be higher because we're saying, okay, which are your 5 top, and then what is the PCS. And again, we have for primiparous kind of a split, Holstein going higher, multiparous clear again. So Holstein separated from the other two groups. Going to the barn location, so this is east versus west, way higher, because as we mentioned, 0.5 was the random value, but again, this is PCS, and we see very, very high values for the cows across the whole lactation. When we go to multiparous, again, Holstein on top and being a little separated from the other two groups. And configuration, lower, you see we are 0.2, but again, we kind of find a consistency across the days in milk, a clear separation between the groups when we go to multiparous cows. So kind of highlights for this part, the three groups have some degree of selection behavior. So they kind of favor some units and some side and some side of the arm. Holstein were more selective. So when we saw this result, we thought, okay, why Holstein is more selective? It's because she's larger and she can get, her weight. She goes where she wants to go. She can compete and gain. It's because of a different temperament, or could be on the other side that she's more patient and she can wait. She wants to go to number 5, so I stay in line, don't worry, and I go. So we wanted to try to clarify if it was because she could push or because she could wait. So what we did is analyze the waiting time in each of the groups. So the idea was, okay, we have different size, we have different PCS, and then do we have different waiting times? Is shorter in the Holstein or is longer? So that was kind of the question, and we measure this because the cows will have sensors, and we know when she goes to the entrance of the milking center, and then when she goes to each milking robot. So we know the time that she's spending in this waiting area. So let's go to the results. This is waiting time and primiparous cows. So you can see, as we were expecting, shorter times for Holstein, which is black, a little bit longer for the crosses and longer for the Jersey. When we move to multiparous, kind of confirming this idea of larger size, helping you to wait shorter, the times are shorter. The same kind of order, but you see we have a few minutes less when you are multiparous waiting for the unit compared to when you are ambivimarous cow. So we wanted to know if this was changing in the time, so we went across the lactation, and you can see here that it's pretty consistent. From the beginning, Holstein will be the ones that are waiting shorter compared to the crosses and to the Jersey. So more selective, Holstein more selective, and also enter to the robots faster when you compare to the other two groups. And finally, we had another question. So we know, okay, there is difference in PCS, there is difference in waiting time. What about the milking units? Is there a milking unit that is more preferred by cows? Is there a kind of a very popular unit? So we went back and we counted which was the top selection for each of the cows, which was the unit. So this is the result. As I said, we have 1 to 22, and we divided this in time. So this is early lactation, this is in the middle, and this is kind of late. But you can see here that in fact there was a preference. I would say unit 1 and unit 12 are the most commonly selected as top 1. And I think the reason is very clear. When we go back to the diagram, this is unit 1, and this is unit 12. So it's kind of the one that is just entering. So probably that helps to the cows to say, you know, I want to go to this one. However, as you can see here, that will change in time. So this kind of popularity of one milking unit is going down as the cow is advancing on the lactation. So the second part highlights, I would say that cow size seems to be a significant factor for the ability of the cow to select the unit that they want to use. And the question for the discussion later is, okay, we from here we learn that the cows like to choose. Pretty much something that is not very new for anybody, but we confirm that they want to choose. So our question is how we provide the opportunities through the day of these cows to select, to choose, to be able to go to where they want to go and to have this capacity. So that's pretty much what I had for the milking process and behavior. So now we're going to move a little bit to the third point, which is automated body condition. And I'm going to kind of present what we learned about the behavior of body condition and how this is impacting at least two big areas of dairy. But then what we want to do to connect this with behavior, and maybe if you could help me with this and provide some ideas would be great. And I'm putting here the co-authors for this series of studies on body condition. So this is a study farm. It's a large dairy with high production, and they have this 90 unit rotary parlour. And they also have, in the exit of the milking, they have 2 cameras with body condition. So we have body condition scores for every milking, but we group them by day. Because we're going to talk a little bit about fertility, they submit the primiparous cows to AI at 80 days in milk, and the multiparous a little bit earlier at 60 days in milk. And they have this double off-sync protocol. So these are the outcomes we are going to present today. Reproduction, and I'm going to use pregnancy at first AI, but then time. So when the cow overall got pregnant, so that would be in the fertility side, and then kind of the other face of the coin, which is milk production. In this case, I'm going to talk about average values at some specific points, but then how the lactation curve is moving across time. On the other side, the explanatory variables would be this body condition at a specific time points. We consider, okay, for example, calving, dry off, 21 days, but a very unique point that we can find today because of automatic body condition is the nadir body condition score. So we went and we found for each cow in each lactation what is the lowest point in the first part of the lactation. So in the past you couldn't do it because you don't do conditioning every day, but now we can. So we know how deep each cow would go after calving. So that was an important one. And then we analyze body condition score change. So let's go first with reproduction. So in this slide, what I'm going to show you is the cows divided by time to pregnancy. So we have in green the early group, 90 days, then from 91 to 150, and then the late pregnant group. So I wanna see how body condition score is behaving in these three different groups, and this is what we have. This is multiparous cows, but we can clearly see, and you can guess this, that cows that were pregnant earlier didn't lose much body condition. So this is the group that remain high and kind of start recovering and always stay in a good level. On the other side, we have the cows that took longer to get pregnant, and these are the cows that really had a deep nadir and went down longer than the other cows. So very clear separation. It was very similar in primiparous cows too. So loss of body condition in lactation will result in delayed pregnancy. Now, as I mentioned before, we use nadir body condition. So in this case, we divided all the lactations by quartiles, considering the nadir body condition score. So the lowest nadir, the lowest 25%, and up to the top 25%, meaning cows that didn't go down too deep as the other group. So this is the lowest nadir, cows that lost more body condition. This is pregnancy at first AI. So it's so clear how every 25% of the cows is moving up. This is a group with the greatest nadir body condition. And the difference in AI, in pregnancy at AI1, was 13 percentage points. So it's very significant how you compare the cows that went deep with the cows that stay a little bit higher. When we move to the change, so in this case is greatest loss, smaller loss, is about the same. You see that there is a nice difference in pregnancy at first AI when you go from the group 1 to the group 4. So greater loss in body condition, lower pregnancy at first AI, and in this case was 11 percentage points. So kind of a big separation between these four groups based on the lowest point in the first 100 days in milk. So kind of a couple of comments that are no surprise. But if you maintain good body condition during early lactation, there is a positive effect on fertility. You will say nothing new here. I agree. Now let's go to the other side of the coin, which is milk production. And again, in this case, we divided the cows by milk level. So in the previous one was by time to pregnancy. In this one, we are saying, okay, high production, kind of medium, and then low milk production. And we plotted the body condition for the three groups, and this is what we have. Clearly different for each of the groups, but you can see that cows that were high producing cows lost more body condition, which of course makes sense. And the cows that remain with good body condition were the cows that were not producing much. So super clear separation between how associated is the potential for production with the loss of body condition. So early lactation change in body condition is strongly associated with milk production. And then we are plotting the milk. So in this case, it's not body condition. We are going now to milk production. And in this case, we divided the cows or the lactations by the change from the calving to the day 21. So how was the behavior for body condition from the calving, day of calving, what happened with the body condition at 3 weeks. And we have cows that were losing body condition, the ones that were losing the most, and then even cows that were gaining body condition. So what is interesting and kind of, again, makes a lot of sense is that cows that gain body condition will not be the high producing cows. compared to the cows that lost body condition that will stay producing more. Something that I think is interesting, we were measuring the change here. So from calving to 21 days, but the effect, or not the effect, the association, you could say, kind of remains all the way to the end of the lactation, very clearly. So loss in body condition postpartum, meaning more milk. So kind of summarizing this, we use on the left, so here we have time points, here we have body condition change, and this is the milk yield up to 60 days. So the average milk at 60 days for each of the lactations. And we are testing the association between what happened, for example, at calving. So if you have low body condition here, or if you have the highest body condition, I would say not a clear effect. So maybe calving, unless you are really extreme, is not playing a huge role on what will happen with the future milk production up to 60 days. Now, when we go to the nadir, that's different because we see that cows with the lowest value, meaning the cows that lost more body condition, were really high in milk production compared to the cows that had the greatest body condition at the lowest point that really produced less milk. Now moving to the change, this is, I cannot see with the camera here, the calving to nadir, and we see again, so the greatest loss of body condition will imply more milk. If you lose less body condition, we will produce less milk. And going to the next one, I think it's interesting because in this case, we go this way. For dry off to calving, we go this way. And the reason is that they are losing body condition because they are producing milk. In this case, they are not producing milk. So the thing is something else is going on. It's not milk, like on the right, is something different. So this is the level of production for the next lactation, right? So they are kind of dry now, but how much will they produce at 60 days? If you have greatest loss of body condition, you'll produce less milk. When you have a small loss or you gain body condition during the dry period, you produce more milk. Okay, so now going back to put fertility and milk together. In this case, here is time to pregnancy, the first that I show you, and this is milk yield. And I guess the point is that there is a conflict because the colors don't match. If we go to the time to pregnancy, so fertility, this group will be the one that we want because it's early pregnancy. However, when we go to milk production, the same group will be the one with low milk. On the other side, you don't want these cows because they are taking too long to get pregnant, but they are associated with high milk production. So it's kind of a conflict. So I think there is a need for finding a balance. How much you want to go in milk, how much are you willing to sacrifice in both sides? So to close this topic, we plotted all the cows, all the lactations, considering two things: nadir body condition, so this value, the lowest value again in the lactation, and then the milk average at 60 days. And we kind of divided this in 4 groups. So I'd say cows here that didn't go too low in body condition, you see they are in the high side, but were the top producing in milk. So that's kind of our favorite cow, I could say. She can produce, she doesn't lose a lot of body condition, so probably she will be pregnant timely. We have group 2. This is a cow that is high producing cow, but she's losing body condition significantly. So we think something we need to do with these cows. They kind of need some support. This is another group, so cows not producing a lot, but keeping well for body condition. Maybe if you wanna make a balance and have different cows, that may be your cow. And finally, this cow that is not producing a lot of milk and is also losing body condition. So in this case, is the cow that we don't want to see because something must be wrong. She may be sick, something is not working for this cow. So now going to behavior, so far not much connected to behavior, but the point that I have is that we are trying now to add more players to these dynamics of body condition. And I think that time is crucial, time of events, so time of things happening, because you want to see how one thing may affect the other. And for learning that, you need to know when things happen. So what we are trying to add is these multiple variables. So rumination time, eating time, some health events. We have done this one, a huge impact of health. Then cow location, for example, and interactions, how cows that are interacting well, keeping with the friends, may have a different body condition score. Feedback behavior, that would be another important one. So what we would like to do is to add now to all these findings related to body condition and fertility, health, production, all these other components in a way that we can learn what happened first. Is the cow not eating well and then she gets sick, or is she sick and then she's not eating, is not visiting the feed bank? What is happening? So to close, I say that there is potential for better understanding of cow behavior. And to me, the bottom is how we facilitate the expression of these behaviors that the cow wants to express. And I think that we understand better this section, we will have a better efficiency also in every process. As you saw, there is a significant impact of body condition on multiple areas. But what we want to do is to add more variables and also making it practical, because the farmers with 2,000 cows having a body condition every day are overwhelmed, right? They cannot work a lot with that. So I think it's something that we need to do to get a way to summarize everything and kind of give suggestions that are simple, such as what you have when you breed a cow. Breed, not breed, something like that. So that's what I think is coming. And to close, I'd like to acknowledge USDA for this funding that helped to perform all these studies. Also, Dilaval that was in these farms and provide a lot of support for analyzing or obtaining and then a little bit analyzing the data. Also, some funding from our students. The main one, I would say, the dairy farms that open the doors and we go and do whatever we want. So this is amazing. Co-investigators working in all these projects for sure, and then grad students that are the ones that do the, the main job. So with that, I thank you for your attention, and I'll be happy to take questions or maybe discussion I would prefer, but let's see.